Hi, it is officially 1 minute past one. I did promise you I'll go live at 1 o'clock, but I don't know what it is about lockdown. I've just really been struggling to be on time, but I believe 1 minute I can be forgiven for. So welcome, and a big thank you to the Weekend August for giving me this platform, and also just for inviting me to wrap up what is Women's Month, and hopefully we don't just put ladies in the spotlight for 1 month, but we continue to do that and celebrate them. So my topic of choice is, the sisterhood, how the media portrays women, and I just wanted to speak from a personal side. So let me first introduce myself. My name is Zoe Brown. I was born in Cape Town, grew up in both Cape Town and Durban, and I used to work on the Espresso morning show, so that was super duper early in the mornings. And then I most recently finished up some Afrikaans work where I co-hosted Trap Dis My Huis on Via. So I've been doing a bit of English and Afrikaans TV work, but currently also working on radio at KFM 94.5. So that is a little bit about me in terms of what I do in the media. And for my topic for Women's Month, that I wanted to just break it down a little bit and just explain to you why I chose to focus on the sisterhood of media, and why it's so important that we need to have that one. And for those, and not necessarily just in media, but in life, we need to have our sisters around us. So I'm speaking from a personal experience, from a standpoint. I hope that marks sin, yes. So the reason why I wanted to touch on that was, I was watching the movie Isn't It Romantic on Netflix. So during lockdown, I've definitely been increasing my movie intake, as well as the amount of series I've been watching. And I always find these big aha messages in the silliest of movies. So what Fat Amy, Rebel Wilson, was actually touching on is how the media always pin women up against each other, and it isn't really like that. Maybe that is a myth from the past, but I just wanted to touch base on that. I used to believe in that myth. I used to believe in that portrayal that women can't work next to each other. It's always a bit of a competition, but that's really not the case, and I want to prove it to you. So how I got onto the Espresso morning show was I won presenter search on 3, and the last episode announcing the winners came out the Friday evening, and that Monday I started out my new job. So if you can think back to your first job, your first day on the job, whether it is a new job or your first time ever working, it is petrifying. You meet so many new people. There are so many names you need to remember. It's a new environment. It's quite scary. So imagine having to have your first day broadcast in front of anyone that tuned in into SABC, because that was my first job experience. But I have to say, if it wasn't for my industry sister, Leanne Williams, I don't think I would have survived that first week. She was absolutely incredible, and she's one of the ladies I just want to honor during this little broadcast that I'm doing with you, because she played such a big role in just helping me find my feet. So if we're going to rewind to the night before, I was so nervous. I don't think that whole weekend I slept properly. I was extremely worried about, how am I going to fit in? Am I going to fit in? I mean, I'm joining a group of established presenters and I have zero experience. That was where my mind was at. But my first day was, in fact, not just my first day, my first couple of weeks on live TV was welcomed by support. It was welcomed by, gentle correction. And I made many mistakes. I will never forget, I was doing the news, and there was an article about Macedonia. And I kept reading macadamia, which is a nut. It's not a country. So I made a little blooper, but you know what? If it wasn't for Leanne helping me out, I probably would never have been able to live that down. But yes, she's one of the ladies I want to honor, because she showed to me that, ladies can work together. There's a sisterhood, and it's so important to rely on your sisters. Another example was when I started off with Trap Dis My Huis. So I grew up Afrikaans, but not in a professional way. So to speak and present in Afrikaans is completely different to how I would speak to my mom and dad at home. I've always believed that when you present in Afrikaans, it needs to be proper. Jy weet, jy moet mooi en vlot en die groot woorde gebruik, en when you speak a lot of English and you all of a sudden have to switch over to Afrikaans, the big words aren't there anymore. But my co-host, Amalia Ace, is a brilliant actress. And we had a little bit of a joke between the two of us because for some reason I could remember and pronounce all the big numbers, but I would mix up the big words, and she would mix up the big numbers and remember and just so eloquently be able to pronounce the big words. So we had a little agreement that I will take care of the numbers and she can take care of the big words. But it was just another moment where I got to work with someone that is, in my eyes, a powerhouse, and they just extended their support, and I hope to do that for, you know, other people that I get to work with one day. So those were some of the things that I wanted to share with you, where, you know, sisterhood is, it is there, and somehow the media always portrayed that women can't work together, and that's not true. That is not true. Another thing that I wanted to share with you was you know what, I did a talk the one evening, and when you become so vulnerable, it was a very, very vulnerable moment for me, and what I now get to term as a big shame hangover from being so vulnerable. I remember chatting to Leanne the next morning while we were getting our makeup done, and she said to me, you know what, when you feel vulnerable or you expose yourself in such a way, you sometimes need to decompress with someone. And she happened to be that person for me the next day. So it really, really helped me to just put that aside and be able to focus on what needed to be focused. But I do want to encourage you, if you have any questions or if you would like to know anything, this is a very interactive chat that I want to have with you. Please pose them here. I'm still trying to figure out how Facebook Live works on my cell phone because, you know what, I'm not always as savvy as I maybe come across when it comes to technology. But yes, this is a chat between the two of us. And I made a couple of notes just to make sure I don't deviate from what is really important. So another moment that I want to reflect on was when I was invited in 2016 to be part of the Cape Town 10's media team. That for me was such an eye-opener. I got to be on a netball team with some girls that have played netball before, some who haven't, but the thing that linked us all was we all worked in the media industry. And what was beautiful about that experience is I work for a radio station as well as I work on TV. These ladies were, you know, whether they were journalists, whether they were working on radio, TV, they had different experiences behind them. And even though the brands we work for are seen as competitive brands or competing brands, on the field and away from the camera and the microphones, we found a beautiful friendship. We had a WhatsApp group when leading up to the Cape Town 10s, when we had to like coordinate practices. That was our little group where we got to just chit chat, got to know each other. And what made that experience so special for me was I was quite new in the industry, and it was a beautiful way to get to know the other ladies from different radio stations, even though from a brand perspective, we were competitors. When we were on that netball field, when we were in that little WhatsApp group, there was no competition. It was only one lady supporting another. And that was quite special because even though it started in 2016, that WhatsApp group is to this day still alive, even though I wasn't able to participate this year. It was beautiful to see how the ladies still support each other, because what came from that WhatsApp group was birthday invitations. There was a baby shower we got to attend, and it was just really, really beautiful to, you know, in your personal capacity, have women celebrate you, but also when it's life milestones that we got to celebrate. So something I want to encourage you to do is, you know, when it comes to not necessarily just in media, I think it's so important to look at the ladies you work with, the ladies who are around you, even your own sister, or even if you don't have sisters, you know, your cousins. I am very, very close to my cousins, and they are like sisters to me. I do have a sister, but I view my friendships in that regard. Like, they're my sisterhood. They're the girls I get to celebrate. They are the girls I get to, you know, seek comfort from. And I want to encourage you to look at your circles and really, really see, you know, who is it that's in your life that can really help you? Who is there that, you know, can support you? And then you flip it around. Who can you support? Who can you help out? Who can you be there for when they need someone to, you know, express, whether it is an embarrassing moment or whether it's something, you know, they want to celebrate with you. I think that is so important. So that was basically what I wanted to discuss, just from a personal standpoint, was yes, there is a sisterhood within media. I think it is so important that, you know, people see that, apart from working for competing radio stations, that the presenters are actually friends away from the microphone, and that is completely possible. So I have Zamir here saying greetings, hello. If you have any questions that you would love to ask, feel free to do so. I am here to answer those questions and keep this chat as interactive as possible. And just to make sure I've covered all the things, you know, you know, for me, it's special. It's quite strange to do a Facebook Live and not, I mean, I talk for a living, but it's generally into the microphone, into the camera. Now I'm talking into the cell phone. But yes, I would love to hear your feedback. If you have any questions, you can always just pop them my way. I still have a couple of minutes. I feel like I went through all my chatty points quite quickly. But yeah, feel free to ask questions. I'm here to answer them. Let me see what's come through. But yeah, I hope you have had a wonderful Women's Day. I've really been enjoying seeing, you know, ladies supporting one another. Another story I wanted to share with you was, I once went for an audition, and I will never forget walking into that room. I saw people that I grew up watching on TV, and I was completely starstruck. And I feel like I kind of, maybe being so starstruck by people I admire, it kind of got under my skin, and I feel like I messed up the entire interview. But what was so beautiful was when the presenters that got the roles, I was so happy for them. I was so excited for them, and they deserved it. And when roles have come my way, it was beautiful to see how others celebrated those milestones. So I see I have a question here from Zamir. Says, what is your biggest motivation? My biggest motivation is my family. I grew up in Cape Town. My parents moved to Durban for my dad's work, and I got a restart, if I can put it that way. I was only 12 years old, but in hindsight, the restart for me was in Cape Town. I was what they would call, I call it the shadow friend. I mimicked everything, I copied everything my friends did. Looking back, probably didn't have much of my own personality. I never really owned the skin I was in. When I got to Durban, I was removed from that crowd, and I got to find what I was good at. I got to explore things that I was passionate about, not what my friends were passionate about. And that being said, my family went through a very big financial dip when we made the move from Cape Town to Durban. And that is, to this day, my biggest motivation. I remember one evening, I was in high school, and I said to myself, I will work as hard as I need to never ever have to experience that low we went through as a family ever again. And I speak openly about it. My family, not so much, but I have nothing to be ashamed of. It has built the character. It has helped me to be the person that I am. And that's how I get to, you know, keep working hard. And I think that motivation is what got me, allowed the doors to open that did open for me. When I started out in radio, I worked on campus radio, and being a student, you have a very big social life, or so that's what I thought. I never had that because I chose to go work for a radio station. And my show, which I was very proud of, was every evening from 9 p.m. to midnight. And for any student, that is like social suicide, because if you go to a bar, if you go out and hang out with friends, it's generally in the evenings after class, but never too late. So that was, that for me was building a moment of building character, because I remember it was pouring with rain. My housemates said to me, "Oh, so we just call in sick and watch movies with us." And I'm like, I can't just call in sick. That's not how it works in radio. And that was my motivation. I had to work really, really hard. Sorry, I have to apologize. My cat just jumped up. I became a real cat lady during lockdown, but yeah. So thank you, Zamir, for that question. Yeah, I have to say my biggest motivation is my family. And I think I definitely got my work ethic from my dad. Thank you. I got a message also saying, what advice can you give me? I want to also get into the industry, but I live in Kimberley. Okay, I'm going to just quickly read this further. It says, we don't have much opportunities this side. I have been posting my auditions online, etc. Unity, thank you for that message. You know what, this is a tough one, because when I started out, I asked myself the exact same question, like, how can I get myself onto TV? And Unity, I'm going to share a message with you now that when I was wrapping up my university years, I was already working at KFM. And I remember going to a talent agency because I thought that would maybe open some doors for me, being able to go to auditions, being able to get myself out there, because you don't know where to start. I went to this agency and I said to them, I'm giving myself 6 months to get a proper job. Otherwise, I'm going to have to, fall back on my degree and start working, because my parents didn't think radio was considered work. And I'll never forget, in that meeting, the lady said to me, Zoe, 6 months is not realistic. You cannot expect that from yourself. You need to give yourself at least 18 months, a year and a half, if not more. And I was just like, you know what, I'm going to give myself 6 months. And I entered presenter search on 3, and that was my foot in the door. So in terms of being able to give you advice on how to get into the industry, definitely look out for that. What helped me to see that audition post was I did a short presenter course. I did it wasn't online, it was a 6-week short course once a week for, I think we were together for like 2 or 3 hours on a Monday night. And it was while I was doing the short course that one of the guys came forward and said, hey, I heard there were auditions. So I think the best would be is, maybe see if there's a community of other aspiring presenters in your area. Maybe there are auditions that didn't come across your path that you weren't aware of, and hopefully they can be posting that there. I have been thinking the same thing. Cape Town is, in terms of opportunities, I think Joburg is the place to be, but I don't have the courage yet to want to move to Joburg. So yeah, definitely I would encourage you to keep posting your auditions online, keep filming videos. You never know who it's going to come across. And it's great practice. It's great practice. So Unity, thank you for that message. I have another one that says, yeah, if you have dark days, how do you get out of it? Well, we all have those dark days. I am not someone that will share everything online. I post pictures here and there, but there are days where, you know what, you are hard on yourself. You are not loving yourself enough. And I am throwing that whole love yourself thing out there because it's something I struggle with and it's something I need to work with. But the one thing I have found on days where, you know what, it's not as sunny and sunshine, I find taking a break from social media very beneficial. I think our timeline is full of, accounts we follow that we admire, and it can be sunshine and roses for them, or the picture they've decided to post, and it just doesn't make you feel good. So I personally take a step back from my cell phone. I personally put my phone away, and I need to remind myself of, you know what, especially let's say if it's in my career, I need to remind myself of where did I start? Where am I now? If it comes to my fitness days where I feel very blur, I need to, be like, you know what, I can get up. I am able to still move around. I have so much to be grateful for, and just practice gratitude. So Zamir, I hope that answers your question. For the dark days, I sometimes need to force myself to reflect, to see where I was, where I am, and that also sometimes help you to navigate where you want to go. But just from a general perspective, I take a little bit of a break from my cell phone. That helps me personally, and it's important to do a couple of things that makes you feel good. And I know during lockdown it's very difficult, but it really makes me feel good to be outside. It really helps me to go for a walk. So I think it's important to try do something that just makes you feel good. Okay, thank you so much for joining the live. I really appreciate that. I have another message here that says, the name is Asanda. Sorry for the profile. Just wondering what your next milestone. Let me just open that up. Like I said, please forgive me. I'm not that savvy when it comes to Facebook. Just wondering, what's your next milestone you are targeting? I think you did international relations. That's right. So is that the direction you're heading in the future? I studied, so Sanda, thank you for that question. I did study international relations, and it has helped me a lot in my career. So when I initially told my mom I'm doing international relations, she was like, what do you become when you study that? And I was like, well, you don't become anything. And you should have seen my mother's face. Because in her mind, if you do teaching, you become a teacher. If you do accounting, you become an accountant. If you do medicine, you become a doctor. So her big question to me is, what do you become if you study international relations? And for me, the degree helped a lot. I still am very passionate about what's happening in the world. I have a weakness for monitoring what's going on in politics. And I think that degree also gave me some skills that was necessary to help me in my media career, in terms of being able to do research, absorb a lot of information in a short space of time. So in terms of my next milestone, I am focusing on doing more Afrikaans TV work. I would love to, have my own show. That is something I'm putting out into the universe. But in terms of my next milestone, I want to focus on my Afrikaans presenting. I had such a wonderful experience doing English on Expresso, currently on radio, also doing English predominantly. So yes, my next milestone is Afrikaans, and in Afrikaans TV. And in terms of using international relations, it's still in the back burner. I think the backup plan would be to study further, but for now, that is not the focus. So Asanda, thank you for that question. I hope that answers it for you. I have a question. You're funny. You're very funny. Thank you for that. Yes, so I love this one from a quote from Sarah Wood that says, women shouldn't be afraid to put themselves forward. I agree with you. I agree with that. That came through from the Weekend Argus. And I think so often we hold back. So often I have found myself holding back. And it comes down to also a lot of negative talk. I think we don't realize we're doing it until someone points it out. I will never forget, I was walking into studio and I think I did something silly, and I said it out loud, like, oh, I'm so stupid. And the presenter that was currently in studio, Mama House, said to me, he's like, Zoe, you can't talk to yourself like that. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you need to be kinder to yourself. Those are the words that's in your mind, and you need to be kind to yourself. And I never realized that by, dropping something or not being able to do something on the first try, and you make a comment like, oh, I'm so stupid, or oh, I'm being silly, like, that's negative talk. So Mama How pointed that out to me, and yes, I'm guilty of, breaking myself down. And we shouldn't, like the quote from Sarah Wood says, women shouldn't be afraid to put themselves forward. So thank you so much for joining me on this live. If you have any other questions, I'm going to quickly scroll through and make sure I didn't miss any of them. I have another one here that says, I'm going to read this one that came from the Weekend Argus. Let's just open it up. see more. There we says. It says, after all those years as a woman hearing not thin enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, not this enough, not that enough, almost overnight I woke up one morning and thought, I am enough. I hope you can also, I think that is so true, and something we need to practice every single day. Even I'm guilty of it, where you feel like you're not enough, and we need to stop that negative talk. We need to stop that when we think of it. And sometimes if you find yourself in circles where they make you feel like you're not enough, it's best to review the circle you're in and change. That's the one thing lockdown has been good for, was it really showed me who are the people I want to spend more time with, and who are the people that I'm actually quite grateful I have this lockdown putting this barrier between us, because it wasn't healthy friendships. So thank you so much. I really appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. I hope what I said made sense, because I tend to talk a lot. And thank you so much. Please stay warm, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and enjoy what is left of Women's Month. But like I said, let's not just celebrate women in the month of August, but continue to do so. And not just the ones in media, the ones that are around you. Let's celebrate them. If they've got a small business, support them. And I just wanted to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you tuning in for this live. Zamir, one last question says here, any favorite movies? My all-time favorite movie is The Devil Wears Prada. And as I mentioned at the start of this, I tend to watch what some people would call silly movies, but I find the biggest messages in it. And why I love The Devil Wears Prada so much is it's about a small town girl that went to go work for a magazine, and she saw the potential in being able to do the groundwork. And it was very relevant to what I went through in terms of my media career starting out. I had to work the graveyard shift. I had to work 3 to 6 in the morning. I had to work midnight to 4. And I worked those hours, and I was happy to work it, because I knew by putting in the hours, something great will come from it. So in the movie where she was Miranda Priestley's assistant, this is Anne Hathaway's character, she knows by sticking it out for a year, it will open up so many doors in the industry she wants to be in. She was heading into journalism, and it's just something that made sense to me at the time. And it's one of my all-time favorite movies, where you just need to push through and I'm going to say suck it up, but you just have to push through, motor through, because at the end of the day, there's a greater picture ahead. And if you do the groundwork now, it will be easier to get there. But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you tuning into this live, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.